But you look
How was
awesome.
having spiders all over your face?
It was rad. I grew up when I was young, I had a couple of pet tarantulas. I never I handled them, but I never let them crawl on my face. So it was really wild. As soon as like the first thing that happened when I arrived at Overlook, I like went up into the theater, and then Danielle from IFC was like, "Hey, I want you to meet some buddies." And I sat in this chair, and all of a sudden they put like tarantulas on my face. All right, that's a good way to kick off Overlook Film Festival. Faux show.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I don't think you could say that would happen in any other festival. So
Overlook is such a special fest. I love it so much. It's so awesome.
it is. And ironically, that's where I saw Late Night with the Devil last year. And I've been talking it up for a year, going, you have to see this when it comes out. And of course, it took a year. So everyone thought I was nuts.
Well, thank you for being a champion for the movie. It was honestly right after South by Southwest, which was a kick-ass way to launch the movie. Go right into Overlook, and then Overlook was this incredible, like this giant groundswell of support from the genre community. So many people responded so intensely to the movie that I was like, if you're a hit at Overlook, you're good. Like we already had achieved something. I was so excited to see how well people, because the horror community is super loving, super supportive. It can be this incredibly inclusive space where all of us can come and let our freak flags fly. But people are strongly opinionated, and people really know what they like and don't like. And so presenting something to so many genre heads is a little nerve wracking. And I
Mhm.
remember breathing a big sigh of relief when I heard the applause and the laughter and the gasps at the Overlook screening last year.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a very fond memory of you just vamping for 15 minutes because the projector at the screening I was at didn't want to work. And I was like, okay, this guy's cool. So this movie is bound to be cool. And it absolutely was. I don't think I heard a single person say they didn't like it last year.
That's awesome. Thank you.
But as far as sort of being a part of these films that play festivals and then take a year to come out, is that frustrating at all as an actor? Or is it something that you kind of just have to come to accept? Like, hey, I'm going to be in this thing, but it might take forever for anybody I care about to actually see it.
No, I have to make peace with that, because the truth of the matter is a film like Last Voyage of the Demeter, you wait 2.5 years, I think, until after we finished it. With Late Night with the Devil, we waited a year and a half before it got to play at a festival, and then a whole nother year until it's in front of a wide audience. So that was like 2.5 years. But if you're proud of the thing and you love it and you know it's coming, then you just go, okay, I'm making peace with the fact that I have to wait. And maybe one of the benefits of that is that, like, so 2 years go by, I look at myself in the mirror and I go, well, I'm 2 years older now. I look a little worse for wear. And then I get to watch a movie I was in 2.5 years ago, and everybody thinks that's what I look like now. I'm like, oh, it's kind of like a little time capsule. Since I have to, as a vampire, kind of taper it back a little bit on how much blood I can drink to keep myself youthful. I have to achieve a lot of it through the movies. But it is true. I am a vampire. I have an autoimmune disorder called vitiligo, which means that the sun is my enemy, and I don't have pigmentation that normal humans have. So I have to mostly go out at night. I feel very lucky. Maybe I'll be able to have a long career in the movies. Because, and it's funny. One last thing about that, being a vampire, I think it's kind of a crock that I've gotten to be in some really cool movies with like a vampire, and yet I don't get to be the vampire. I keep wondering, like, when is someone going to cast me as a bloodsucker? I feel like I was born to be a bloodsucker. It makes no sense. I was hanging out the other night. I Because I didn't realize that Late Night with the Devil was going to actually play in Canada, and then all of a sudden we started to get this big momentum and started expanding more and more theaters. But I'm up here making a TV show called Murderbot, so I rented a little cinema in Toronto, and I invited the people from my show Murderbot, and then a friend of mine who is Harvey Guillen, who's on What We Do in the Shadows, is here in Toronto shooting that show. So I invited him, and he ended up bringing all of the What We Do in the Shadows people, and we were watching Late Night with the Devil together. And I kept saying, like, I think it's a crock that I don't get to come and be a vampire on your show.
Honestly, if you ever do play a vampire, I will be there day one, like sat to see that, because, you know, my friends and I just love you in everything that you do. I mean, you had a stellar year. You've had a stellar like past year with Last Voyage of the Demeter. You had The Boogeyman. You have this coming out, and it's like he's everywhere, and I need him to keep staying everywhere because you're just so much fun and so full of energy.
Thanks, Maggie. That's awesome. That makes me so happy.
Of
I
course,
feel like the luckiest.
But
nerd
I have a specific.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a specific question about this film. Are you familiar with Ghostwatch at all?
Oh God, yeah. I've loved Ghostwatch since the first time I saw it. And when I first met with Colin and Cameron, we talked about the fact that a movie like Ghostwatch was huge. It's like Ghostwatch. You want it to feel like Ghostwatch meets Network, meets like a Cassavetes film, and has all of that dread and inherent kind of like true, this really happened horror that a film like Lake Mungo possesses. So I think that Ghostwatch was always something we would go back to and think about when we were making the film as an inspiration. And it's been an honor to me that people sometimes in positive reviews or in the posts that I get tagged in on social media will say like comparisons to Ghostwatch. I'm like, that's a freaking classic, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was the first thing that I thought of when I walked out of the theater at Overlook. I was like, oh, this is more, I get more of what, you know, excites me about Ghostwatch, which is so exciting because found footage can be sort of a tricky genre to master. But
yeah.
Ghostwatch
nailed it.
But also, I know that the directors of this film sent you footage of Don Lane, the Australian talk show host, to sort of, you know, draw inspiration from. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I'm interested in what you use that for as research.
So Don Lane was this really amazing figure in late night talk shows in Australia. He was an American. He was from Chicago. He was a radio personality who went to Australia. I'm not sure why he first went there, but he became their Johnny Carson. And people loved him in Australia. And he had all the big guests on, all the rock stars, all the actors, all the politicians. But he had a soft spot in his heart for the paranormal and the supernatural. And he would bring people on who were purported to have psychic abilities, could bend spoons, you name it. And you've got like the famous Johnny Carson, Uri Geller like stuff where you felt like people were brought on American talk shows either to just kind of debunk them, make them look like charlatans, or to make fun of them. And I think Don Lane had this yearning to believe. He was kind of like Fox Mulder. He's like, I want to believe. I, Dave Dastmalchian, definitely have much more Fox Mulder in me than I do Scully. I definitely want to believe, and I'm always looking for some kind of evidence or proof. And I think that was beautiful about Don Lane. He would have people on and he'd say, what's wrong with wanting to believe? What is wrong with yearning to believe that there's something outside of our understanding? Just because our brains have brought us this far in, you know, these thousands of years of evolution doesn't mean we know everything yet. We already know the cones in our eyes can only see like, what is it, like 10% of the prism of colors and things that are existing around us. So like, who knows what could be real? And Don was the only person that I really noticed in that space who was as open-minded. And I wanted Jack to not just be a guy who's exploiting or pushing for ratings. I wanted a real human in there who cared about his show, who cared about people, who was just unfortunately so under pressure that he started to make compromises to his own ethics.
Yeah, and you take on a really sort of big role in this, obviously, as the leading man. And there's always a certain amount of pressure with a leading role, but also a leading role in a horror film, you know, because genre fans are so completely diehard about the things that they like, but also the things that they don't like. So how was balancing that sort of pressure for you?
It's just like every day for me. It's like I go to the airport or I'm at a film festival or I'm doing press with you or I am going to set. People are paying attention because you're in the public eye in some way or another. and even posting things on social media when it comes to promoting my films, or maybe standing up for a cause that I care deeply about, like protecting LGBTQ youth or whatever that may be. There's things that I'm like, I'm gonna be me. I'm gonna stand up for what I believe in, and I'm gonna present myself in a way that I can promote the projects, the art that I care about. But I have to manufacture some space in there in between what is my safety zone of privacy, the person that I can be behind the scenes who needs to just sometimes let down his guard and cry or be scared or deal with his anxiety or try to manage his depression, which anybody who's wrestled with depression knows you could be winning the lottery. You could have the coolest job on earth. You could be literally seeing your dreams come true. And yet the chemicals in your brain can be your worst enemy. So like that guy juxtaposed with guy at film festival celebrating movies, who's a real version of me. That's not like he's some fake put upon charlatan. That's real David, but there's also real David that exists in private. And I want to always try and find the bridge of authenticity between the two so that I can feel safe being myself. And I think for Jack, he didn't put as much care or thought into those things. He tried very hard to just construct an impression of success and joy and marketing. And then privately, he was falling apart, but he wasn't going to tell anybody that because he was a prototypical man in the 70s that like, we don't talk about those things. And, all that BS still leads to so many of the problems in our society.
And you are sort of, at least, in conversations that I've heard, are largely considered a genre actor. I mean, you have Demeter and The Boogeyman and all the other things you've done. And you're obviously, a massive fan of this genre. But is that something you feel kind of comfortable being labeled as? Or with this sort of role as a leading man, are you hoping to prove that you can kind of, be whatever you want to be?
I just want to work. And I want to continue to rise to the challenge and overcome my fear of playing roles that I don't think I'm capable of playing. That's what's most exciting to me right now. I just love being surrounded by people who care about me and take care of me, who I can love and take care of in a creative space. I want to be working with people who are able to communicate their vision with clarity and with compassion and with innovation. And whatever that next role may be, as long as it's something that pushes me outside of my comfort zone and challenges my work as an actor and gives me an opportunity to play the music that I love to play, I'm happy to take it on. And whether that's a guy who's in every scene of a movie, whether that's a guy who's in one scene of a movie, it just doesn't matter. I think about a film like Boogie Nights, which is just chock full of so many insanely incredible performances. And you go from Julianne Moore to Mark Wahlberg to John C. Reilly to Heather Graham to Burt Reynolds and down the line from William H. Macy to Philip Seymour Hoffman, blah, 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 blah. And here comes Alfred Molina in one scene, just devours the screen. And I go, there you go, man. That's your answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you, is there any sort of thing that you would love to do, if it sort of fits those criteria? Because obviously I am now dying to see you play a vampire, but is there any sort of other kind of, because I know you were just in Oppenheimer, which is just, a revelation for everyone that's seen it. But is there anything else that you're sort of interested in working on genre wise, project wise, like whatever?
I mean, I think that I've launched my company, Good Fiend Films. We were co-producers on Late Night with the Devil. I also got to help put together last year's Halfway to Halloween special that the Boulet brothers made for Shudder. And in the space of genre, I want to tell stories that are super challenging and introspective, with really complicated ideas for horror. I also really want to tell stories that help us confront fears that maybe could be appealing to audiences of all ages. I've always been a fan of things like The Monster Squad and Temple of Doom and Are You Afraid of the Dark? So I think it would be really wonderful to create stories that all ages could watch and be scared of together, but also, collectively kind of confront fears with. And I would be really honored and thrilled for an opportunity in the future to see some of the stories that I'm creating in comic book form, like Count Crowley or my upcoming Knights versus Samurai, be envisioned on the set of a film or a television show. I think that would be a big, big, big. It is a big, big, big dream and goal of mine, and I hope to see it happen.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today.
Thank you. That was awesome. Thanks, Maggie.
Yeah. And good luck filming Murderbot.
Thank you. You're going to love it. It's such a cool show. It's really great.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much.
Thanks for supporting Late Night with the Devil so much. And please give my best to everyone at Collider. You guys have been such great champions for genre work. And I'm just so grateful to be so supported by you guys. It means a lot.
Of course. Thank you so much.